Now it's time for the first of our Group 1 events, the Investec Coronation Cup, and this is Highland Reel. And of course you will know already that they have had a troublesome journey here, and you can see that Aidan O'Brien has just walked the horse a little bit further away than from the camera crews, of which we are one, that are gathered around having a look at him. He's already saddled Idaho, who was quite sweaty, and now we've got Highland Reel, who's a little bit on his toes. And the BHA vets have checked all of the Aidan O'Brien runners over and pronounced that they are fit to run, but obviously they haven't had as stress-free journey as Aidan O'Brien would ideally have wanted.
Yes, not only were they late on the plane that was delayed, but they also had a problem on the M25, I believe, with an accident there that they were waiting there for some time. Highland Reel nearly always sweats, but he really is very, very sweaty today. It's a warm day. Idaho, when he first came into the paddock, wasn't sweating quite as profusely as he is now. So there are one or two others, particularly Hawkbill, who's drenched in sweat. It's a warm day, but one or two of these are boiling over.
I'd say that Highland Reel is showing a little bit of signs of agitation, and if we pan to the left-hand side, we can pick up Idaho, his stable companion, who, as Eddie has said, has become quite awash with sweat.
He has, and he was, of course, placed in the Derby here and then second in the Irish Derby last year, but he's on his toes. He's not actually completely boiling over, but very sweaty.
And then we have three horses behind him, the other of the Aidan O'Brien trio, number 8, US Army Ranger, who by contrast seems to be pretty chilled.
He does. He's just looking a little bit rough in his coat. He doesn't look as sparkling as you'd expect, but they've had difficulty getting to the course, and that may have played its part. OK, we've got time to show you Hawkbill, who's just moving towards us on the left-hand side. And he has got two handlers. You've already heard from John Ferguson about his chances here. Yes, he's not quite as sweaty as he was when he first came into the paddock. He's on his toes, and in fact he's taking the preliminaries OK now. And
very briefly, the two behind, number 2, Frontiersman,
who's on the upgrade. I think he'll need to be to make a mark in this company. He looks very well.
And the seasonal debut of number 10, Journey, one of 2 fillies in the race, and she was very progressive last year.
She was. She'll need to be well tuned for this first go against the Colts. She looks pretty well forward, and she is capable of running well after a break, as she did in the autumn when winning.
Okay. And if we just end again on Highland Reel, Aidan O'Brien just coming to the end of the saddling process, but Highland Reel again reeling round on him and getting very warm. It hasn't been straightforward for these horses and their journey.
It's Group 1 time, and all 10 run in the Coronation Cup. Highland Reel's 5-2, 130 Journey and backed, 11-2 Hawkbill, US Army Ranger 8, Frontiersman 9, 10-1 Bar.
John Gosden runs 2 very talented fillies in the Investec Oaks, but first he's got a talented mare to run in the Coronation Cup. Journey, how is she on her seasonal debut? Because she took a while to find her very good stride last season.
Yeah, I was just saying on IDV that she takes a lot of time to come to herself. I think today she may not be at her optimum, but we planned this race, wanted to wait till June, 1.5 miles, no penalty, nice grounds, good ground, get a run in here and then she'll build on that. But she's ready to be here. Whether she's absolutely humming at this stage, I would think is a little bit unlikely.
Okay, eyeing her opposition, who are you seeing as the toughest?
Well, there's a lot of nice horses in here, Highland Horseville. They're nice, tough horses, and they've been racing and they've been winning, and she just might, for the fillies early in the year, the tough cold springs can put them back, and one just has to be patient, but I'm very happy to be here with her, and she'll run a nice enough race, but whatever she does, she'll improve on.
And no doubt she should be here. The form of her fillies and mares win on British Champions Day is strong stuff.
Yeah, it's good form, and of course, if you race earlier, you run giving a weight away to colts, which isn't a lot of silly with the sense of the penalties. So we wait for this Group 1 race because actually we get a few pounds off the colts rather than give it to them.
And looking ahead to the Investec Oaks, Enable and Coronet. If we can focus on Enable first of all, she was very impressive at Chester. Has she done well since?
Yeah, she's done everything right since. We've been very happy with her. She's a grand filly. The ground is good ground, so I don't think anyone can argue about it. And we expect a lovely run from her. We're fully aware that the favourite is probably in the minding class, and consequently we hope we can give her a race.
And do you expect Frankie will want to ride her quite forward to make use of her stamina?
I leave that up to him. Yeah, she's got stamina, but she's also got a turn of foot, so she doesn't have to be ridden like she's one-paced.
No, but you don't want the race to pan out in a way you wouldn't wish to, though.
I'm sure the jockey will have her where he wants to pounce when he's ready to.
And how about Coronet? She seems to come from quite a long way back in the Santallery. Do you fancy the chances of turning the form around, Mr. Betsu?
She runs a little cold early in her races, takes a little time to warm into it. She's like that at home. Don't change her running style. You've got a nice 5 furlong run racing 150 feet up there. She can creep where she wants to be, and then I'll leave it to the jockey in the straight. She'll wander into the mile and a half. I see her finishing well in the race. Whether this track requiring a bit of zip at times is entirely her track might not be the case, but she wants a mile and a half, and we planned this all winter.
Very best of luck.
Thank you.
Godolphin have got 3 in this, and every single one of them have shortened, most notably Hawkbill, who's gone from 10s to 6s. But the O'Brien horses are all drifting. 13 to 8 this morning, Highland Reel is now 9 to 4, having been 5 to 2, to be honest, so the edge has just clipped off that. Idaho you can't give away, that's doubled in price. And US Army Ranger actually is maintaining its price at around 8 to 1, but definitely the sentiment is against the O'Brien horses. They've had all sorts of problems, and with the Godolphin horses.
Biggest field for the Investec Coronation Cup for many moons, and Highland Reel heads the market. This globe-trotting money spinner for Aidan O'Brien, but has been well documented. They've had problems getting here. Now, as Lydia told you, he was getting warm in the paddock. He always gets warm in the paddock. I wouldn't, normally speaking, worry too much about that.
No, it's just one of his traits, and his brother Idaho was doing the exact same thing. They were both warm and edgy, but that is just the manner of the horses right through that family, I think. So it wouldn't put you off particularly. Indeed, if he came into a race and looked overly chilled out, you would perhaps be a little bit concerned.
You would worry.
He'd be deviating from the norm so far as he is concerned.
And funnily enough, he was unusually chilled out in the paddock in Dubai before he ran disappointingly in the Shima Classic. Ground was another perfectly feasible excuse for him on that occasion. He's 9 to 4, Eddie. On what he's achieved on the balance of his career, that's a big, big prize.
Yeah, even you could say he was flattered in the Breeders' Cup because he got away from them at his own pace, but he's still a 4-time Group 1 winner. I wouldn't be too worried about the price being too big. Simply, would they want to have lots and lots of money on a horse who's had a difficult journey here, etc.? He can still run his race and he can still win. So 2 to 1, you're getting a bigger price than you'd have expected, I think.
Let's talk about Journey. Not that Journey. The Journey is a filly trained by John Gosden, who has really blossomed come autumn, both the last 2 seasons, Chris. What we don't know is whether she can mix it really effectively against top males in Group 1 company in a race such as this in the early part of the summer.
Yeah, it's a case of how ready she is for this test at the moment, whether this is sort of a stepping stone towards the rest of her season. I'm sure that they've got her in solid enough shape. She is running outside of fillies races for the first time. All of her form, maiden form, everything is in fillies only races, but she's got some good form. Like Eddie said with Highland Reel, who was in the right place tactically in the Breeders' Cup turf, I think she was in the right place tactically when she won the fillies and mares on Kipco British Champions Day last year. She quickened nicely that day and picked up well from the ideal position, and she was impressive on the day, but everything went right for her.
Relatively few fillies have won this race. The last one was back in 1991.
I was here.
The brilliant In the Groove.
In the Groove. Yeah, she was brilliant as well. This filly promises to be as brilliant. We're looking at Highland Reel's backside, walking away. Interesting, tactics play a big part here because Highland Reel likes to get out in front. Journey, very good from the front. Hawkbill made all last time at Newbury. So there'll be a bit of cat and mouse. Nobody will want to play their hands too much, the big 3 in the market. And it'll also be interesting to see how the other O'Brien horses slot in behind, as presumably they will.
If you'd said a year ago, 363 days ago, well, US Army Ranger and Idaho will turn up in the Coronation Cup next year and they'll be 10 and 12 to 1, people would have thought not much had happened in their careers between second and third in the Derby and now. Well, that's only partly true, because Idaho's run a couple of good races, most notably in America, and of course, who knows what would have happened in the St. Leger had he not had that mishap a couple of furlongs out. And US Army Ranger flashed his talent again at Chester last time, but he's not the easiest.
No, he's not, but there is a lot of talent, and This is a track, Epsom, where one or two horses that can be a little bit tricky can produce their best. And if you look back through his form, I still think that his best run is that run in last year's Derby. And there's no doubt that there is quite a lot of talent so far as he's concerned.
Dave Nevison reported money for all the Godolphin horses. Hawk Bill, who was a winner last time at Newbury, last year's Eclipse hero. Frontiersman, who is bred for this day, for this job. By Dubawi, he's out of Ouija Board. Ouija Board herself won the Oaks on this day in 2004, and her son Australia won the Derby 10 years later. So it's there in the family as regards Frontiersman, and Prize Money's got some good form in Dubai that ties in with one or two of these. They're all interesting runners.
Yeah, Prize Money's 4th in the Shima Classic behind Jack Hobbs is good enough to get him in the Shea Cup. Frontiersman has to step forward from a handicap. It was a good handicap. The horse he beat, Top Tug, was a smooth winner of another good handicap, valuable handicap at Goodwood at the weekend. So they can step forward. Hawkbill's best form, I think, on soft ground, so that could be a problem, but they're all contenders. It's a fascinating race because you have the proven Group 1 horses at the front of the market just look a little bit vulnerable, and then you've got Derby class horses from last year, top class handicappers, group horses bubbling under. It's an interesting race.
Highland Real's career bears the closest scrutiny. He was a very good 2-year-old. He won the Vintage Stakes at Goodwood, so he's always had that bit more pace than some people give him credit for. And it's quite a fast dam side to this family as well. And don't forget, Idaho's a full brother to him, so may get quicker as he gets older. He won the Breeders' Cup Turf on firm ground, beating Found. He won the Hong Kong Vars, beating none other than Flintshire, and did so impressively. He's run really well in a Cox Plate. He's a very, very good horse.
He is a very good horse. This is a much bigger field than we've had in this race for a few years, and it's tended to be that Ed O'Brien has sent sort of a standout into the race, that this year he's kind of scattergunned it a little bit, but he does have one that does seem the top pick in Highland Reel. But I think because people have sort of had the feel of it at an earlier stage, that it looks a little bit more open, that they've taken chances to put horses in. Frontiersman, for example, supplemented just like last week for this contest. He's strong in the market, as Eddie said. His handicap form is strong. He's got the pedigree. He's been a little bit of a slow burner, but probably looks-wise, I thought he would be about the pick of them today.
Highland Reel then a little uneasy. 9-4. Journey down the bottom. 7-2. John Gosden's trainee. Hawkbill is next best in the market, and Prize Money has come for a little bit of money at odds. 14s into 10-1, a little money for Air Pilot, 25-1. Red Verdon comes out of last year's Derby. He ran a very good race against the bias last year, 33-1. He's not quite moved to the next level, has he?
No, I mean, I thought he had a good chance at Sandown last time, and the race wasn't run to suit him, and he probably wants a mile and a half these days. And the race before that at Chester, behind US Army Ranger and Western Him, I think he did need the run quite badly.
And I know you're a big fan of Breakfast with the Stars, Eddie. And Elbereth was the galloping companion for the Oaks contender Horseplay, and they finished just about upsides one another. Elbereth's a pretty smart filly. If she can take any sort of a hand here, it may give us some pointer as to Horseplay's chance.
And another front runner. And interestingly, I clocked them from the path, which is just over 3 furlongs out. And that pair of fillies did the quickest sectional, if you like, of the 4 gallops that day. Doesn't necessarily mean an awful lot, because, for instance, Cracksman was eased in the last yards of his gallop. But she was still quicker than him.
Loading process begins for the Investec Coronation Cup Group 1. Chris Dixon, your final thoughts?
Well, there is a chance that, given the number of forward-going horses in this race, that they do end up overcooking it and kicking for home a fair way out. And I do fancy on form in many ways Highland Reel, and he's a bigger price in many ways than he should be, but there is a chance that, I mean, we're dealing with top-class jockeys on those horses that are going to the force. They probably won't, but I wouldn't be shocked if US Army Ranger won, if it did set up for him, if the race just was one of those that fell in his lap. But really, I think Highland Reel does deserve to be the market leader. I don't think he has to lead, and I think that they will go forward and sit just behind the pace on him from stall 3. Moore won't want to get too far back, so he won't want to get boxed in.
Aidan O'Brien's won the race with the Great Yates, with Scorpion, Soldier of Fortune, St Nicholas Abbey and Fame and Glory. Can he get another Coronation Cup? Here's Simon.
And they're off for the Group 1 Investec Coronation Cup, and jumping out quickly was Highland Reel in the purple and white jacket worn by Ryan Moore. Leads early to Hawkbill in the all blue, and Journey is handy as well in the white jacket, wearing the hood. In the white cap is prize money. Idaho in about 5th place as they race up the first part of the climb, and they're followed by Red Verdun and then Frontiersman, US Army Ranger and Air Pilot as they swing round a right-hander, and now heading across towards the inside running rail. And Highland Reel, prize money, is looking to get up the inside. Then Hawkbill very handy under William Buick on the outside of these. They're followed by Journey and Frankie Dettori in 4th place. Elbereth is next from Idaho, then Red Verdun 2 or 3 lengths away. US Army Ranger in the hands of Donica O'Brien. Frontiersman is second last in the red cap, and Air Pilot looking on. So Highland Reel, last season's King George winner and Breeders' Cup winner, continues to make the running as they begin the left-hand turn, still climbing towards the 7 furlong marker. Highland Reel from Hawkbill in second. On the inside, prize money in the white cap is third. Then Journey in fourth, followed by Elbereth and Idaho. US Army Ranger, Red Verdun, Frontiersman and Air Pilot some way off the pace. They begin the descent downhill now towards Tattenham Corner, and Highland Reel still dictating terms here under Ryan Moore, shadowed in second by Hawkbill and William Buick, followed on the inside by Prize Money, and then Journey still close up. Elbereth the inside in the white jacket. In the blue and orange then Idaho getting a little closer from US Army Ranger, Red Verdun, and then out the back Frontiersman and Air Pilot. Now they're rounding Tattenham Corner with a half-mile left to travel, and it's Highland Reel who presses on. Hawkbill is driven along in second place. Back in third, Prize Money to the inside, followed out wider by Journey, and then Elbereth down the outside. Idaho. Highland Reel is joined by Hawkbill. Highland Reel with head on one side. Hawkbill laying down a big challenge now in the Godolphin blue, followed by Prize Money and Journey and Elbereth, and Frontiersman down the outside but hanging badly on the camber. Highland Reel fighting off Hawkbill as they run inside the final furlong. A bitter struggle, and Highland Reel finding from Hawkbill, but here's Frontiersman all over the shop, still running on within 2 lengths of Highland Reel, but can't get there. And Highland Reel for another Group 1 win. In second, Frontiersman, a terrific effort, but ran down the camber badly. Hawkbill, Elbereth and Journey all hunting them up.
Well, let's face it, travelling's never really been a problem for Highland Reel. He's won on every point of the compass, and he's won a Coronation Cup today. The 9-4 favourites for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. Jitters throughout the morning. This horse would not arrive on time. He arrived on time, and he put them to the sword once again, repelling challenger after challenger. Godolphin's Frontiersman, out of Handicap company, has not handled the camber at all, but has run a screamer in the Coronation Cup. And a good run also from Hawkbill, who attended Highland Reel throughout, but just didn't quite have his tenacity and his stamina in the closing stages. And a mighty run from Andrew Balding's Elbereth. Does that signal a similarly mighty one from Horseplay in the Oaks in an hour's time? Never mind that for the moment, mind this. Highland Reel wins the Coronation Cup. He dictates under Moore, and he's done it really, really well.
He has a 5th Group 1 for his CV, and he has had the run of it to a degree, but he was challenged far enough out to test his mettle, and he's found plenty, and this is a high-class performance from him. I think he's shown a real good attitude when he was challenged a fair way from home, and he's pulled out more, and I think Ryan Moore has got it right in front. I think Frontiersman has run an absolutely cracking race because he's probably a little bit further back than ideal, but he settled better today, ridden in that fashion. He hasn't really handled the track, and yet he has charged home to finish second behind a proven Group 1 performer. Hawkbill was always in the perfect spot really as well, just behind Highland Reel, and Frontiersman, that's why you would mark him up, because he has basically the only one to get involved from a long, long way back. But you wouldn't say that a tactical advantage has just won Highland Reel this race. I think it's because he is the most talented horse in the field.
Just have a look at where Frontiersman is at the moment. He's 1 from last, the son of Dubawi and Ouija Board, and that decision to supplement him at £25,000 taken last Saturday when he was also withdrawn from a race at York has reaped dividends. Not the most handsome one, but a pretty handsome one.
Indeed, a very fine effort for him, and if he'd handled the track, he would have given Highland, in the closing stages, he'd have given Highland Reel an awful lot to think about. I think I heard the time as being just a second below the standard and just 2 seconds outside Workforce's record. The ground was lightning fast when Workforce won the Derby, and the rail is out today as well, so they've travelled further too. So in that case, it is a high-class Group 1 performance. If that is that is the correct time, 2:33 and 34, I think.
Hawkbill's run a mighty race. William Buick was always just chivying to try and get the horse to apply some pressure to Highland Reel. He's ridden Hawkbill like a confirmed stayer today.
He has. He's had to go a little bit further though, because he's just outside the winner, and it looks briefly there as though he's headed the winner, but Highland Reel's been there and done it, and really battles back. He's definitely headed him, gone at least a neck in front, and Moore had a little bit more. He's very good at saving a bit for the finish, but he had to have the horse to go with him, and he certainly had that.
He's been a wonderful horse, Highland Reel. He really has. But look at Frontiersman rattle home. He started at the top of your picture. He ended up at the bottom of it, and he's really not handling that camber at all.
No, he's not, and he's a group winner in waiting, I think, is Frontiersman in second. But the other point, that if that time that Eddie mentioned is right, the other point to make about that is that confirms that Highland Reel is the best horse in the race, and it wasn't just tactical advantage in my mind, because he's set. You've got to have gone a decent enough pace to clock that kind of time when the rails are out as well.
Elbereth ran a terrific race in fourth.
Elbereth has run a terrific race. John Gosling will be really pleased with Journey. She wasn't able to get involved at the real business end today on her first outing. He was expecting her to need the run. And a good effort, best effort of the season from Red Worden as well, who's reversed the Derby form with the other two O'Brien horses, Idaho and US Army Ranger, who's ended up finishing last. Maybe the Journey affected them more than it affected Highland Reel. He loves sweating, doesn't he?
Possibly, US Army Ranger is becoming rather disappointing, it has to be said.
I think he is. He's already been a bit of a disappointment, bearing in mind the encouragement that he'd shown early on. It was only the third run of his life when he was second in a Derby and looking like a very good horse in it, but he hasn't really ever kicked on, has he?
But as for this horse, his stable companion, what a horse he is. The winning most horse, prize money-wise, that Aidan O'Brien has ever trained. He knows it. And celebrations all round from Team O'Brien as he adds an 8th victory, a 5th at Group 1 level. He's won just about all over the world, and for all that he can globetrot again, I'm sure he'll be bound for the King George at Ascot, which he won last year. Charlie Appleby must be very proud of Frontiersman, who's finished second, and Hawkbill, and Lydia is with him now.
Absolutely, I'm sure he is very proud. Hawkbill and Frontiersman, both of them laying down challenges to the winner, Highland Reel. Bad luck and congratulations at the same time, because both of the horses have done you proud, particularly Frontiersman. It was a big ask to step up to Group 1 level.
No, delighted with the run of the pair of them. Firstly, Frontiersman finishing second there. As you quite rightly said, it's a big step up from our handicap win there at Newmarket on his last start. His homework had been so good. And as I said before, look, he's got a pedigree to die for, this horse, so I'm not saying that means he's going to be a good racehorse, but he's shown us all the right signs at home in his typical Derby. He's getting better with age. So we weren't coming in here confident, but we paid the 25,000 for a reason. We just felt he deserved to have a crack at it. And James just said his inexperience just caught him out round there. We did ask James to just give him a chance round there. We knew the pace was going to be generous up front. And he saw it out well. He's galloped out strongly, so we'll get the horse home. But with the way he's round there and talking to James and His Highness and John there briefly afterwards, we'll look something towards the Hardwick. Yeah. Will be our most logical next step with him, and he justifiably deserves to be there in the lineup.
Absolutely. Initially, you were thinking after he won at Newmarket, maybe the Hardwick we were flying too high, and now it's the obvious target, provided he comes out of this race well.
No, that's right. I say, all being well, he comes out this fit and well, and that's where we're headed for.
And how about Hawkbill? Do you think he didn't quite stay? Was it perhaps that it seemed like it seemed like he stayed at Newbury last time because others underperformed?
No, I mean, what William said there, I was delighted with his own run. I'm not going to keep boring everyone with the same story, but he loves soft ground, It wouldn't worry me coming back in trip either. He's got the pace, and William says he's got a gear there. The winner's a good horse. We don't take nothing away from the winner. He's a good horse. And William said I went to go and have a battle with him, and he found again. But what this horse does do, and I think he proved that at Newbury. He can quicken on soft ground, whereas that catches a few of the others out. So I'm delighted to be made the call, and I've just thanked His Highness for pressing the button at the last minute, because we had a quick chat there before, straight after the first race, and he said, "Charlie, if you're happy, and take the chance." So he's done himself proud there.
He certainly has. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Class 3, Highland Real 9-4 favourite under Ryan Moore. Frontiersman 9-1, Hawkbill 11-2 for the Coronation Cup. And it was... Next at Epsom 345 is a 1.25 mile handicap. Sam Hitchcock rides number 13 and all 14 run. Barocco is 3-1, 9-2 for Darwi. A final and Imshivala a 10-1. It's 11-1 or bigger the remainder.
Barocco then, 3-1 favourite for this Investec Wealth and Investment Handicap. A few whoops and hollers from the crowd. Clearly enjoying themselves here on Ladies' Day already. And we will try and pick out Barocco for you in those Mill Reef Kingsclear Racing Club colours for Andrew Balding and Oisin Murphy. Already proved his effectiveness at this venue, and like the majority of the stable's horses, has shown himself to be in pretty good nick of late.
He has. He won well here a couple of starts ago. He had a fair few of these in behind him that day. That shows his effectiveness on the track and his well-being, and he confirmed that well-being, I think, at Chester last time out when the race really didn't go his way. He was further back than ideal. He made his effort wider than ideal, and he was still able to finish second, a well-beaten second, but behind a well-handicapped horse, I think, last time, and that confirms to me that he is a well-handicapped horse himself. Tactics in this race could play a part, and that is if you were on a track where you thought it was going to be a completely fair race and that tactics wouldn't necessarily play a part, then I think that would look like a good price about a horse who I'm pretty sure is well handicapped. My worry is that if he gets too far back and doesn't get the run of things, then it could be a little bit dangerous. But it was a race where I went through striking a lot off as not being quite well enough handicapped, and Eddie and I were discussing earlier on, 4-1, was it a good price or not? I came down on the view that it was a decent enough price, but it's getting short enough now.
He's not a difficult horse to like, Barocco, is he?
No, he took a long time for the penny to drop. He was always very buzzy in his early races, but I think they always rated him quite highly at home, and now he's settled down. He is a different horse, and the patience is bearing fruit, if you like. He was in the wrong place when the race unfolded at Chester. The winner rather got away. The time before that, he was very impressive here. He meets horses who finished behind him on considerably worse terms. Great Hall, I think, is fourth. He's £7 worse off for less than 2 lengths. Great Hall's going to be one of those setting the pace in the race, as are possibly Fidawi, and there were 1 or 2 other front runners, Storm King perhaps, who might at least set the pace for Oisin Murphy to chase. I think Oisin will use a bit of petrol up from stall 9 early to get a position, and that'll enable him not to be too far back. Because if he drops in from stall 9, he can get a long way behind, and that's probably not ideal. I took very similar views to Chris on going through the race. I kept going through runners, thinking that's not quite good enough. That's probably too high in the handicap, and you end up coming back to Fidawi, who's unexposed so far, and the favourite, Barocco, who's going forward quite fast. But there are lots of others with squeaks, and that's what made it quite a difficult race to assess.
In shot there, Franny Norton on final for Mark Johnston. And hopefully we can head back and have a look at 1 or 2 of the ones with a slightly more obvious chances according to the market anyway. But let's talk about him just briefly before we move across.
Well, he's been in good form for quite a while. I think he's capable of being competitive off his mark, but he's one of those that I think probably doesn't look that well handicapped, and I think he's also a horse that probably is going to want a bit of a pace collapse in order to capitalise in a race off his current mark, and there's a chance it happens here, but if that happened, then I would say that Barocco was a better chance than him anyway. So I think he'll probably run well, and he could drop in off this kind of mark, but he's not a well handicapped horse in my opinion.
There is a little bit of money at odds for Not So Sleepy, who was a shock winner of the D Stakes a couple of years ago and has been playing tug-of-war with a handicapper ever since, but he's possibly down to a mark where he can be competitive now. Hughie Morrison also has the once highly touted Top Beak in this race.
Yes, both of them have theoretical chances, and they're the sort of horses I was talking about. They've got a squeak and you can't completely rule them out. Not So Sleepy's had one run just to help him, still looks a bit sweaty and a bit edgy in the preliminaries. Top Beak got very het up when they played the...
I often see them get off their stool now to shorten one up or protect their liabilities on one. Fidaway's been back from 11-2 into a general 9-2, but some bookmakers going 4-1, so they're head and shoulders the best two backed horses in the race late on, and it's certainly been a theme of what we're on, and only really Not So Sleepy backs each way against them. But Barocco are very much a sustained gamble.
Sustained gamble on Barocco in those silks carried to Derby victory by the Great Mill Reef. Let's talk about one or two of the others here. We've mentioned...
And they're off. Away they go, this time for the Investec Wealth and Investment Handicap, over 1.25 miles towards the 4 in the early stages. Storm King towards the inside of Innocent Touch, Top Beak in the purple jacket, and Im Chevala in red and white, the red spots on the sleeves. They're tracked by, in fourth place then by Examiner in the blue and pink colours. What About Carlo is close up on the outside, and the blue and white striped cap is for Darwy, caught out deep. Not So Sleepy back on the inside then as they climb through the first quarter mile, and then Top Beak towards the outside. Great Hall is another one out wide. Barocco, the favourite, is third last in the black and gold jacket at the moment, just behind Grapevine and Aberique in red and white, and then Speed Company, and final is the last one as they swing left-handed now, and Storm King taking them along from Innocent Touch. For Darwy has moved up on the outside to share third with Im Chevala and Examiner around the inside. Not So Sleepy, What About Carlo next in the red sleeves and cap, and Top Beak in the purple jacket, 3 horses wide. They're followed then by Great Hall, wide of Aberique, and then on the inside is Grapevine, and still back in the field Speed Company. Barocco towards the inside will need the gaps to appear, and final is still bringing up the rear. They swing Tattenham Corner now with 4 furlongs left to cover and about to straighten up for home, and still Storm King by a length or so to Innocent Touch. Then for Darwy on the outside with every chance. Back on the inside, Examiner will need to get out, followed by Im Chevala. Barocco is exploring a very brave run up the inside just behind Not So Sleepy. They're followed by Grapevine. Out wide is Top Beak, and then What About Carlo. Storm King and Innocent Touch stride for stride passing the two. Chased now by Examiner, who's out of trouble. Not So Sleepy. Barocco continues to close, but nowhere to go on the inside as Innocent Touch now hits the front. Innocent Touch, Examiner, Not So Sleepy coming close to Examiner, and a barging back. Innocent Touch, Not So Sleepy with a late dive down the outside, and Not So Sleepy. Rest the spoils from Innocent Touch. What About Carlo flashing home out wide. Barocco had no luck, and then Examiner.
Not So Sleepy comes alive again today at the Derby Festival, and he wins the 4th race in the silks of Lady Blythe for Hughie Morrison, Man in the News, and Adam Kirby. He'd have been a most unlucky loser because he was locked up with nowhere to go, full of running for a long, long way. The gap came and he just got there in time. Excellent run from Innocent Touch, building on that effort at York last time when the ground was a little soft. And Barocco supporters, you can look away now because it never really happened for you at any stage. But the winner, Not So Sleepy, there was little money for him beforehand as well, but it got a little Epsom-like and a little rough late on.
He got cut up by Examiner, and he was being held in, and he just got out in time. And Tony Hamilton had a clear run on Innocent Touch, and he got a length, and they only just dropped for Not So Sleepy, who had a much better run in the race to start with.
What About Carlo's excellent run, just indicative of the good form of the yard, the fact that he was able to acquit himself so well on ground that was probably a shade on the quick side for him today. Excellent effort from him, but good to see Not So Sleepy back. It's been a long, long time since that D-Stakes victory.
It has, and a lot of his form previously has been on a softer surface than what he's encountered this afternoon, and a little bit of a doubt was how effective he would be on a sounder surface, but there were little elements that gave you encouragement for that, and he's proved himself on it this afternoon, and he's won nicely enough. It would have been interesting if he and Barocco would have both got a clear run at the race, but they didn't.
Homebred winner by Beat Hollow, Well done to his owners, Lord and Lady Blythe, and trained by Hughie Morrison, ridden by Adam Kirby. Not So Sleepy wins the 4th race here at Epsom. More reaction to follow, but first of all, here are the SPs.
10 to 1, Not So Sleepy, ending a long losing run under Adam Kirby. Innocent Touch second, 16 to 1. What About Carlo, 14 to 1 in third. Next All Round, and 14 ran. Times will be coming. Remember, the rails are out today, and there have been one or two very good ones. The opening 2-year-old race was very decent indeed. The Investec Coronation Cup was inside standard. That was 206.96. Not So Sleepy. It looks threatening there. Threatening. There are thunderstorms around. There are a lot more further. Well, you knew it might happen, and it is now happening. It's raining at Epsom, and I don't know how much longer, but it's coming down quite heavily.
Now, just as they're beginning to saddle the horses for the Investec Oaks, the rumble of thunder has sounded above us, and the horses are a little bit on edge as a result. What timing, eh? The horse that we're looking at here is Alluringly. Aidan O'Brien has already saddled up Pocket Full of Dreams, and now he's turning his attention to Alluringly, who chased home Enable in the Cheshire Oaks last time we saw her.
Enable rather got first run on her, but she wasn't closing her down at the line. She's a lovely big filly, a little bit on her toes, but looks terrifically well. And on her breeding, her dam was a half-sister to the Oaks' second wonder of wonders, so and the family of Galileo and Steve the Stars she's from. So she's bred in the purple, and she looks terrifically well.
She does, and remember, the Aidan O'Brien crew haven't had a very straightforward journey here. They've had several traffic problems, but they are here now. And Highland Reel, although he is a bit of a globetrotter, was able to deal with that quite readily. Let's move to the horses that are just walking behind, led by number 8, Pocket Full of Dreams, who was ran in the Lingfield Derby Oaks trial last time, went second to Hertford Dancer.
Indeed, and on that form she'd have a lot to find, and it does look as though she's here to set the pace for a more illustrious stablemate. She's a decent filly in her own right, but it's a big class gap to bridge.
Yes, you do feel that she is the pace setter. Immediately behind her is Rhododendron, number 9. She is yet to be saddled. She'll be the last of the trio for Aidan O'Brien to have that done. She was second and rather unlucky, should have finished much closer in the 1,000 guineas.
Indeed, and she should stay. She's related to a 1.5-mile winner. She's just a little bit warm down her stifle, but reasonably relaxed, and the thunder continues to rumble. One worry about her, she hung right markedly 3 times last season, but there was no sign of that in the Guineas, so I think whatever problem that might have been appears to have been ironed out.
Yes. There's horseplay just following down as well, and that she won the Pretty Polly. We'll talk about her in a moment. And then if we have a look back over on the far side, we can find number 2, and that is Coronet for John Gosden.
Coronet, who's a very good third in France, some way behind Sabetsu, and she came from a long way back there. She beat the Colts last year at Newmarket in the Zetland Stakes, 10 furlongs. She does appear to stay very well, and that was a good performance beating the Colts. Kunko, who won the Sandown Derby trial. Permian, who's one of the strong fancies for the Derby itself, were back behind her that day.
And behind that is number 4, and that is Enable, the winner of the Cheshire Oaks.
She's been keen on both her runs this season early on, and a stronger gallop might just suit her well. She's a really good-bodied filly, and she's improving fast. Light on experience compared to some of the other fillies in the race, but she looks terrifically well.
If we pan around to the left-hand side and pick up the third of those fillies, that is number 5, Horseplay. We briefly saw her retreating, but now we can see her full on. And she won the Pretty Polly at Newmarket, and she looks as though she'll improve for a step up in trip.
This is probably about the fastest ground she's encountered in her 4th run of her career. She always wears this sheepskin noseband. She's not big. She's quite a small filly, but well made. And that gallop here on the day of Breakfast with the Stars was a good one, and she galloped with Elbereth, who was such a good fourth in the Coronation Cup earlier.
Okay, if we leave her and pan round to the left-hand side, we can pick up number 10, Sebetsu, who's just walking round. She won the Prix Saint-Hilary Group 1 over 10 furlongs last time. She had Coronet behind her, not as well positioned in third.
But she did show a fine turn of foot that day to win. She promises to stay further. She's this daughter of Debarwi, looks particularly well. She stepped backwards after an impressive Newmarket maiden win last year, and she was no match for Rhododendron in her group race following that. But it's to be hoped that she can run up to the Saint-Hilary form.
And she's followed by the American Raider, the first American-trained horse to run in the Investec Oaks. Daddy's little darling for Kenny McPeak.
She was rather unlucky in the Kentucky Oaks. Came from a long way back to be second, but the winner came from behind her and rather got first run. And she was unlucky in her previous outing as well. I think she's worth her place in the lineup on that basis. We don't know whether she'll stay. We don't really know whether she'll act on this sort of track or surface, but she's shown herself versatile in the States.
4 horses behind is number 6, and that's Isabel d'Urbina, and she chased home Horseplay in the Pretty Polly.
Quite maybe just a forgotten horse. That was an improved performance from her. She's a bigger filly than many of her rivals and may just need to grow into her frame a bit. She's quite relaxed, though.
And following her, just on the left-hand side, there is number 7, and that is Natavia, who won over 10 furlongs at Newbury last time we saw her, but in soft ground.
That was a listed race, and she'd only had one maiden win before that. She was impressive at Newbury. She looks as though there's still a bit left to work on with her. She's worth a place in the race, and she's the least experienced of them all.
And if we just pan round to the right, we can pick up in the centre of the parade ring number 9, Rhododendron, the favourite, who is now finally being saddled by Aidan O'Brien, and she looks nice and calm.
She is, and Winter got first run on her in the Guineas, her stablemate. She stormed up the hill to finish second, and that sort of form is going to be good enough to take a hand here. She's a very short price, but I think there's a lot of stable confidence behind her.
So those are all of the 10 fillies running here for the Investec Oaks as the rain starts to come down and the thunder menacingly rolls.
It tends to be menacing when it rolls. All 10 run for the Investec Oaks, which is coming up in 12 minutes' time at 4:30. Rhododendron is 6-5 on, Sebetsu 6-1, 13-2 Enable, Coronet and Natavia are 12-1, 16-1 Horseplay, 20-1 or bigger the other 4.
So we've moved on to the track itself to see the horses moving to post, and they're going to come in race card order. So alluringly for Aidan O'Brien leads Coronet the first 2.
Alluringly, who was beaten by Enable in the Cheshire Oaks, when going off favourite for that race. She looked particularly well in the paddock, and she's just a little bit on her toes as she comes out. Coronet also slightly edgy. There's a lot to take in here with the thunder and lightning and the fanfares and the big crowds. And Coronet the grey, who ran so well in France, to be third to Sebetsu.
Let's talk about number 3, Daddy's Little Darling, the American Raider, who's very, very fit, isn't she? She is a lean racing machine.
She is, but she's very keen to get on with things as well. She's been pulling hard for her head ever since she came in the paddock.
Followed by 4 Enable, passing through, and then Horseplay, Isabel d'Urbina, who chased her home at Newmarket, and Natavia, who's just throwing her head around a little bit, number 7.
Yeah, and she just looks as though there's a little bit of condition being carried, Natavia, as though this run's going to bring her forward even further. She's carrying the second colours of Prince Khalid.
And if we pan around to the left, we'll allow the pacemaker Pocket Full of Dreams to go through and focus on Rhododendron, who is coming down the walkway towards us. Number 9, the Mount of Ryan Moore for Aidan O'Brien, and they are looking for this prestigious Group 1 double here at Epsom as the thunder rolls.
And she's a high-class filly in her already, and now she just has to prove that she stays the trip. It's a bit of a big if, but she's a hot favourite to do so, just stepping as she goes to the start.
You just see her stretching out, and behind her is a horse who's won at Group 1 level already also, and that is Sebetsu, and that was this season in the Saint-Hilary. She's just getting warm between her back legs. She is a high-mettled filly.
Like so many horses today, she has rather boiled over in the preliminaries, and she couldn't back up her very good performance last year with another one, and it's to be hoped that she can reverse that and run up to her run in France.
These are very difficult conditions, as Eddie was saying. Not only do you have the usual cauldron of sound that is Epsom, which always puts horses on their mettle. Added to that, we have got thunder and lightning ahead, lightning lighting up the sky as the horses gallop up the hill towards Satnam Corner and make their way to the Investec Oaks. This is going to be some test of temperament as well as ability.
Yeah, a couple of minutes ago I was the only punter in this betting ring as the rain came down, but it seems to have stopped where I am. I can see it. See dark skies out on the track where the horses are heading, but the punters have only really been heading for Rhododendron. There is a little bit of 5 to 6 showing, but most of the bookmakers now 4 to 5, and really, you know, nothing else has been back. Enabled 6 to 1. Sabetsu did touch 13 to 2 into 6 to 1. And really nothing else. Jack Milner said if Rhododendron wins, it's a bad day for the bookies. 80% of all bets in the Bet Victor office were on this one this morning, and it's just continued on through the day. So it's the race that defines the afternoon. If Rhododendron wins, it's one to the punters. If it doesn't, looks like they're going to come second, because every Yankee in the country seems to be including Rhododendron.
And after Highland Reel's victory in the Coronation Cup, everyone seemed to forget the idea that these horses had had a troubled trip over from Ireland this morning, or at least one that afforded them very little time to settle in here at Epsom. But there is Rhododendron, and although she's a little bit keen to post, she looked absolutely fine, Chris.
She did. She looked well. She looked perfectly okay in the prelims, and I wouldn't worry about the way that she's going down to post, as you say. She's not pulling hard, is she? She's just looking a little bit fresh, if anything, and she's had a little bit longer to settle into her surroundings since arrival than the horses that have already been out earlier on in the afternoon, and in the case of Highland Reel, go on and win. So hopefully she's taken that delayed journey well enough. She certainly looks to have done, and she is the one that sets the standard on form. But there's a few of her opponents, and they are a deep enough bunch of opponents. For all that she has the best form, the others have some very good form, some very good pedigrees, and it's very early days in their career, and they could improve any amount at any given point.
It reminds me a little bit of going into the 2000 Guineas this year with Churchill, where he was the horse that everyone talked about for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and suddenly the trials came along and you thought, oh, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 that could be good against him. In the end, we know what happened. He went and won. But it's a similar story here as Eddie rejoins us. You've suddenly got a whole group of horses putting forward what look to be quite strong credentials, which are about to be tested. Horseplay and Enable and Natavia and Alluringly and Coronet, and even the American filly Daddy's Little Darling, Sabetsu, the Santallery winner. There's lots and lots of very appealing form on offer here.
And of course, you look at Aidan O'Brien's strong hand, and then you find his hand in all those other cards as well. Coronet last year in the Zetland had Wings of Eagles, one of his Derby challengers, behind him. Alluringly was beaten by Enable. He'll know where he stands with a lot of these horses.
Daddy's Little Darling has grabbed hold on the way to post and is giving her rider, Olivier Pellier, a pretty torrid time. Now, this is not what Kenny McPeak wanted.
And she's been warming up to do this ever since she first came in the paddock. She shied away at a bolt of lightning, not surprisingly, earlier, and I've been shying away from a few of them as well. And she's been buzzy and buzzed up. And, of course, in America, they have outriders, they have their pony to the start. He's off now, Olivia. That's a horrible incident. It looked like a soft fall. Let's hope it was. But the filly's loose, and that is the last thing anybody wanted.
Oh, it would be such a great shame, having come all this way, if her Oaks story ended before it began.
Yeah, it would. Hopefully she's okay and Olivier Pellier's okay, and they can be reunited. He looks okay, she looks okay, but she'd taken off with him, hadn't she? And it's obviously a concern if anyone has backed her, and for her connections having come all of this way, they wouldn't have wanted that on her way down to the start for sure.
Olivier Pellier is on his feet.
In a normal circumstance, you'd say she mustn't run. The filly must be taken out. But she's come halfway across the world. It's one of the biggest races for fillies in this country. She didn't go very far when she bolted. She was caught very quickly. Olivier looked as though he's just winded. she'll probably take a chance.
If, of course, the jockey wants to get back on.
Yes, he's having another time out. The filly will be checked over by the vet as well.
He's smiling. The filly's okay. Those are the two most important things. We await news as to her participation here, though the stall numbers are being rearranged.
No, but they're moving everything out one. I don't. We'll wait and see, but it just looks as though everything was going out one.
Okay, horses now ambling down to post, those that are a little more tractable, which gives us the chance to talk about the key dangers to Rhododendron. Let's start with Enable, because she was impressive in the Cheshire Oaks. She'd finished third behind her stable companion Shutter Speed in the fillies trial race at Newbury, the race which Light Shift won en route to Cheshire Oaks and victory here 10 years or so ago. How strong do you think that Cheshire Oaks form is, Eddie?
She dominated the race. I don't think the form is anything stronger than she beat Alluringly. We're just hearing Daddy's Little Darling has been withdrawn. It's a terribly sad day for the connections of her, because they've had a real go to come across and run here, and they've not been rewarded with anything. Let's hope she can stay here and find something to run in while she's over here.
Fingers crossed. And Kenny McPeak, swashbuckling, enterprising guy that he is, talked to us extensively at the beginning of the programme and said he had a number of horses that he had booked for other races in Britain during the course of the season. So let's hope we see more of him. And the good news is Olivier Pellier and the fillies seem, relatively speaking, okay. So we were talking about the Cheshire Oaks form.
Yes, she's been Alluringly, who's got solid form of her own. She was a very easy winner of a Tipperary maiden on soft ground, I believe. And Enable herself's earlier run against her stablemate Shutter Speed was probably, she was just done for speed that day. Shutter Speed, a faster filly, has since gone on to win the Musidora. So that's solid form, even if the runner-up slightly let the form down in his subsequent outing. So Enable's a filly, I think she's got a lot more to offer. Physically, she looks terrific. She's very well put together. And I don't think she'd be running in this sort of race with John Gosden's very good spring he had if he didn't think she had a terrific chance.
Gosden strong-handed. He has Coronet as well, who finished third in the Sant'Allery behind Sebetsu. Let's talk about Alluringly a little more, because Aidan O'Brien has won this with second strings in the past. He won it with Qualify, who was about a ninth string when she won 2 years ago. He won it with Was, who was a third or fourth string back in 2012.
Yeah, and Alluringly obviously has to reverse the form with Enable from the Cheshire Oaks. Now, she's only 4 runs into her life and she might take another jump forward, but watching that back, I didn't see any obvious reason as to why she necessarily would reverse the placings. Enable, just going back to her a second, I think she really improved for the step up in trip. There is stamina down both sides of her pedigree really, and she was an improver for the distance last time. This is a little bit further again, and that will probably help her.
Green cap of coloured Abdullah is Roger Charlton's Natavia, who was, I suppose, the most recent arrival to the Oaks picture.
Yes, when winning easily at Newbury and impressively. That was on soft ground, and Flood Warning was a horse she bumped into early, and that form has been upheld there. I think she's a filly who could need a bit more time than this. This just might come a bit too soon in her career. Just the 2 runs, and maybe rather been thrown into the deep end.
A final thought then, Chris, as the runners head behind for the 2017 running of the Investec Oaks.
Well, Rhododendron is a worthy favourite. I think she's got the best form in the book, and she would have given Winter an impressive winner since a real race in the Guineas over a trip that I think was short of her best, and I think she is sure to improve for the step up in distance this afternoon. So she is a worthy favourite and the one to beat, but I think that Coronet and Sebetsu, who were first and third in the Allery over in France last time out, are feasible enough dangers.
As you can probably hear from the whoops of the crowd and the cracks of thunder, this year's Oaks is going to be run in a fairly significant electrical storm. It's going to be a challenge. These races are supposed to be a challenge, but the elements are throwing an added dimension at us.
Have you ever really been in a significant electrical storm? Because this isn't one, this is tame stuff.
So, enough for me to want to go inside.
Exactly. Exactly. Eddie clearly has a career as a storm chaser ahead of him, one of those lunatics that drives into tornadoes in America.
I landed in Hong Kong in the old airport in the middle of the city in something where I've never been as terrified as I was that night. I don't think I'll ever be as terrified again. This is nothing, mate.
My worry is that I'm standing next to the tallest man on the racecourse and the most obvious lightning conductor anywhere. Back to business then. Back to this. Tasks ahead for these riders. Task ahead for Ryan Moore in his bid to give Aidan O'Brien a 7th Oaks on Rhododendron.
Yeah, just in terms of betting on the race, plenty of people looking to do that probably have already got their wagers on, but the obvious each-way horses to me are Coronet and Subetsu, because I think they are bringing strong form into the race. Just on Coronet, I liked that form last year when she obviously beat Kunko and the Dante winner Permian, who's obviously improved a lot since, but I like the way that she shaped in France behind Subetsu as well at Deauville. She perhaps wasn't best positioned, and Atzerny should get her into a nice spot from stall 6 today. The other thing about this race is it will be interesting tactically, because on the evidence that we've got of them so far, where are the real front-running types? Something will emerge to go on and make it, but it is a race that could get messy.
I've got a sort of feeling, don't know where it comes from, that Pocket Full of Dreams drawn next to the rail may just supply the pace, and in which case Ryan Moore will be quite quick to slot in, I think, from stall 5 on the favourite Rhododendron.
Donica O'Brien, trainer's son, takes the ride on Pocket Full of Dreams. He will be aboard Venice Beach. Big ride for him in tomorrow's derby, and sister Anna will be riding the Anvil. Family affair for the O'Briens tomorrow, as it is here, as the master of Ballydoyle seeks his 7th victory in the Oaks. Rafe Beckett, represented here by Isabel de Urbina, looks for a 3rd, and Andrew Balding, who won this with Casual Look, for a 2nd. Subetsu will be one of the last forward. For the Fillies Classic, the Investec Oaks, Simon Holt to call him.
Subetsu going to make up the line for the 2017 Investec Oaks. With thunder and lightning surrounding Epsom, they jump away from the stalls, uphill for the first 5 furlongs here, and Pocket Full of Dreams on the inside of Enable and Subetsu, followed in 4th place by Alluringly. Rhododendron in the dark blue jacket, seconding in 5th place early on, followed further back by Natavia, and then Horseplay, the back marker Coronet at this early stage as they climb uphill. Isabel de Urbina towards the outside as they run through the rain, and Pocket Full of Dreams is out in front, and it looks a brisk pace as they continue on this steep incline. 2 lengths, 3 lengths to Subetsu in 2nd. Then in 3rd is Enable, followed by Rhododendron. Nadavia is on the inside, then of Alluringly. Horseplay is further back from Isabel de Urbina, and Coronet is still just about last. On their way now towards the final mile, and Pocket Full of Dreams out in front under Donica O'Brien, tracked by Subetsu and William Buick in the all-blue jacket. Frankie has Enable in 3rd. Then Rhododendron, the hot favourite. Ryan Moore in the dark blue jacket in 4th place, just towards the outside of Frankie Dettori. Then on the inside is Natavia, followed by Alluringly in the bright yellow and black spotted jacket. Horseplay is behind these as the leader continues to press on inside the 7 furlong marker. Isabel de Urbina and Coronet still at the tail of the field. The track flattening out, they're about to run downhill towards Tattenham Corner, and Pocket Full of Dreams is going to make this a serious test. 4 lengths clear of Subetsu in 2nd place, then Enable in 3rd. Rhododendron with a clear run towards the outside of these, followed by Natavia. They're followed by Alluringly and Horseplay, Isabel de Urbina and Coronet, and he's still kicking on the leader, Pocket Full of Dreams, who's kicked away from Subetsu as they now round Tattenham Corner, and it's Pocket Full of Dreams by 5 lengths. 2 in 2nd, Subetsu. Then Enable in the pink cap. Rhododendron going well towards the outside. The leader folding up and coming back to them now, about to be swallowed down by Subetsu, by Enable and Rhododendron. And it's Enable and Rhododendron battling on here. Enable and Frankie Dettori in the pink cap. Rhododendron and Ryan Moore in the dark blue jacket, chased by Alluringly back in 3rd. Both riders going for everything, and Enable is just getting on top from Rhododendron inside the final furlong. Enable kicks 2 lengths clear of the favourite and racing up towards the line. Enable for a 4th Oaks win for Frankie Dettori in the colours of Khalid Abdullah, and Enable wins the Oaks, pulling well clear in the end from Rhododendron. Alluringly 3rd, and Horseplay staying on in 4th.
A gruelling Oaks run under a dramatic Epsom skyline has gone the way of Frankie Dettori. his first win in this classic since taking it aboard Godolphin's Katia in 2002. 15 years on, he wins the Oaks for his old ally John Gosden. 3 years after Gosden saddled to Gruder to win this race. It was a pulsating battle between Enable and the market leader Rhododendron through the final couple of furlongs in a race that had been blown apart by the strong, brisk pace set by Pocketful of Dreams. And it was that filly stable companion that had to settle for second behind an ultra-tough stare in Enable. 2 seconds in classics for Rhododendron, but she's gone down fighting. Alluringly, her stable companion a long, long way back in third. But the race was burst open a long way out. That delivered us an emphatic winner. That winner's name, Enable. She was well able to win the Oaks. High class filly, Eddie.
Very high class filly. She's outstayed Rhododendron, but in a classy way as well. She's won by 5 lengths and 6 lengths in the end. The rain beginning to get into the ground, I feel, over the far side of the course.
6-1 Enable has returned, which was not too much shorter a price than the prices on offer on the evening she won the Cheshire Oaks. The biggest price then was 10. It was nibbled into 7 by the evening. She went off 6-1 today because of huge money for a Rhododendron, alluringly confirming that Cheshire Oaks form strength by finishing third. But this was the key point where Donica O'Brien aboard the third string for Ballydoyle, the maiden Pocketful of Dreams, really set out to exploit any weaknesses, any chinks in the armour of any of these fillies in behind.
And it turned the race into a proper test of stamina, and Enable has relished that. There's stamina down both sides of that pedigree, and the step up in trip had improved the last time out a little bit further, and a greater test of stamina today has improved her again, and she's a really fast, progressive and high class filly. That was a really taking performance. I think she's done Rhododendron for stamina, but she's not short on any amount of class as well. And it's what a classic should be, a test of quality, of pace and of stamina. The worry was it might be a messy race. I could see the leader being the leader, but not necessarily at that kind of gallop. And in the end, it has probably suited Enable.
And Ryan Moore and Frankie Dettori, who rode the runner-up and winner respectively, were quite content to watch William Buick be the first man to play his card meaningfully. Now, just look for an incident after they've come round at Tattenham Corner. Just look to an incident involving the eventual winner Enable as Frankie tries to get out from underneath Rhododendron. Yes,
because Sabetsu is possibly going to come back to them, and Dettori doesn't want to be trapped on the inside with the front runner of Pocketful of Dreams also coming back. Ryan Moore equally wants to hold Enable in if he possibly can, and he just holds his position. Dettori the first to come under, to put his filly under serious pressure, and presumably Ryan thought there was a lot more in the tank than there turned out to be. And Enable it was who really battled back grittily, wrested the lead and stormed away inside the final furlong, taking 5 lengths out of Rhododendron in the last furlong.
Much has been spoken about pedigrees this spring, particularly the offspring of a horse who raced in Enable's colours, Frankel. And it's therefore somewhat ironic that a horse in the Juddmonk Silks should give Frankel's old rival Nathaniel his first classic winner in his first crop and beat Frankel to the punch in Great Britain to that honour.
Yes, Frankel's had a Group 1 winner in Japan, of course, but not yet on the board over here, and Nathaniel will be resting contentedly tonight, I suspect. Really gutsy performance as well as classy, I think. She was eyeballed by Rhododendron. She looked back at her and said, "I'm having none of this, and I'm going to grind it out and win in telling style." Great effort.
5 lengths the eventual margin between Enable and the runner-up, the gallant runner-up Rhododendron. Also saddled the third place filly alluringly, Aidan O'Brien, and he is talking to Lydia.
And Aidan has just heard from Ryan Moore what he thought about what happened to Rhododendron. What did he say to you, Aidan?
No, he thought she ran very well, Lydia. Listen, everything went lovely, but she ran a very good race.
Did you feel that any of the horses, did he feel that Rhododendron was affected by the conditions that the race was run in?
Yeah, no, he didn't say, Lydia. Obviously, the shower, obviously a little bit slower was than for the Coronation, but he didn't use that as any excuse or anything.
Did he feel that maybe the horse that had the superior stamina, Enable, won?
He just felt that the last furlong was a long furlong on our filly. Whether it was the trip was far enough for her, or whether she had a very busy day, you know what I mean? So a lot of stuff, you know. But she ran very well.
There are a lot of things that have been going on today, aren't there?
Absolutely, you know. So no, we're delighted with the way they ran, really. And obviously the winner's a very good filly.
And clearly that form at Chester is very strong, because Alluringly has run really well for you in third as well.
Absolutely, Diddy, absolutely.
And was the plan for Donica to set such a strong pace?
Yeah, no, he didn't. He just went sensible, but like I didn't think it was too strong or anything. And the other fillies, they kept their own position, so I didn't think there was anything mad really now, you know. So listen, Ryan Folly down into the straight, and like I say, then Ryan just felt the last furlong was long enough.
Does that suggest that you might go back in trip with Rhododendron?
I'd say wouldn't mind. She'd be very happy going back anyway.
Well, I know it's been a testing day for you. You have won one Group 1 and you've had two fillies perform very well for you in the Oaks. Well done and bad luck.
Thanks, Lydia. Pleasure. Thank you.
Aidan O'Brien, second and third behind this man. It's another Epsom Classic for Frankie Dettori, twice the winner of the Derby on Authorised and Golden Horn. And he's got a huge chance tomorrow on Cracksman, and he gets the weekend off to the best possible start with this filly Enable, who he said took him a little bit by surprise at Chester. He said he thought she'd just run okay in his wake at Newbury, but look back at that Newbury race again, and she wasn't knocked around behind Shutter Speed. Shutter Speed herself could be John Gosden's best filly yet. She goes to the Prix de Diane.
Well, she's clearly better thought of at home. She went off his short price for the Newbury race. She's thrashed Enable, who probably wasn't ready and who's much more about stamina. I think we saw that today when she knuckled down in the last furlong. Stamina was there in spades, but a brilliant filly who got away with it in the ground conditions, Shutter Speed, in the Musidora.
And John Gosden, he took his first Oaks 3 years ago with Tagruda. That filly went on to the King George and won that race, and there are quotes of 5-1 and 11-2 for today's winner for that Ascot showpiece. This winner, Enable, owned by Prince Khalid Abdullah, who last won the race back in 1997 with Reams of Verse. His racing manager is with Lydia.
Nick was just saying it's been a while since Reams of Verse won this race.
It's been a bit too it's been too long.
It has a bit.
20 years, I think. It's frightening. Before my time, even.
Absolutely. This was a tremendous staying performance from Enable.
It truly was. I mean, we're just talking just now. She just looked like she was going to have a bit of a tussle with Rhododendron, and did so at the sort of 1-2. And then when she really stayed on, lengthened again and really did it was just utterly brilliant.
It was incredibly impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was very impressive.
You must be delighted. What are you thinking now that you can do with her? Because of course John Gosden took Tagruda to run in the King George after this. I'm aiming high, Teddy.
I think we're in a very fortunate position, and I'm so thrilled for Prince Khalid. His breeding operation, a homebred classic winner, so vital for everything. So I think we've got to enjoy this and then think about the future.
And there's Shutter Speed as well, of course, for the Prix de Diane.
Yes, she's on course for the Prix de Diane. Yeah.
And her form's just been franked a little, I would say.
Just tiny bit.
Many congratulations. What were you feeling when you came here this morning? Were you hopeful, confident? Where were you?
I'm always hopeful. I'm never confident. I'm always a bit apprehensive. A classic. I love the whole atmosphere of Epsom, Investec's Poundland. I think it's fantastic. I think the whole thing has been just a real boost for the sport, and we're so lucky to be involved.
And we threw in a thunderstorm as well, just to add a little bit of pep.
Yes, a little bit of excitement.
Well, many congratulations. A really emphatic success. Well done to the whole operation.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you very much.
A fourth Oaks for Frankie Dettori. Enable had what it took today. A thumbs up for the camera, Frankie. She was brilliantly tough as well, but you rode her with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, in the back of my mind, I used to use at every chance, and everything went smooth. And unfortunately, it started raining halfway up the top of the hill and made the visibility very bad. And I gave myself an extra yard at the first two cars. Then Ryan came very quick. I thought, when I saw his rein were very tight, I thought, he's got the better of me. And then as we passed this two, his rein started to slack, and I knew that my filly would run till the end. And very good filly, great performance, and I'm delighted for the whole team at Clarehaven and Abdullah and John Gosden and everybody else.
And you and Ryan clearly had the same view of how strong the pace was, because you were sitting third and fourth. You were never too far away from one another.
But the pace was strong. I mean, basically, I wanted to play my card earlier, and but Ryan jumped to me earlier than I expected, and unfortunately, I had to get a little bit of a rush straight away. But the filly answered every call, and the last furlong she went away. I wanted to celebrate it a bit more, but it was wet, slippery. I thought, just get over the line. We'll celebrate after. And
you've won 3 Oaks before. In terms of quality in the field she gave you through this race, how does she stack up?
I think there's plenty more to come. She's still lightly framed, a big frame, and she's very honest, very genuine, very easy to ride, very easy to be around. And, you know, she beat a very good filly, so you've got to put her up there with the very best.
And you were saying to me the other day that when you rode her at Chester, she just surprised you a little bit by how much she'd come forward from Newbury.
Yes, she did. And she surprised me again today. She showed, not only she's a good stayer, that she showed the battling quality and, you know, very good filly.
This must fill you with confidence ahead of Cracksman tomorrow.
Well, I've been rushed around like a lunatic, and I haven't had a chance to really enjoy it. I've got to get to 7 over the line now, and then we'll regroup tonight and roll on tomorrow.
Seven Heaven is a different challenge altogether.
Yes, I've had a few of those today. Thanks.
Good luck.
We now have the Investec Savings Surrey Stakes, and the reason that Frankie Dettori was in such a rush after riding the Investec Oaks winner Enable was because he had to go early to post on Seven Heavens. So she's already headed to post for the Oaks winning connections. We're focusing first of all instead on number 6 Sutter Country for Mark Johnson and Andrea Atzeni,
who put up a personal best on turf when winning a decent, very decent handicap at Goodwood last week under Atzeni, making just about all. He's a big horse. He's been on the go through the winter, and he's still getting better, I think. He had a problem with the left-handed bend at Lingfield initially, but I think he's got over that since then. So the track ought to suit after Goodwood.
He's followed by number 7 True Valour for Johnny Murtagh.
Very fit. Johnny's brought this horse over, got some form in listed company already, and certainly that third, when he was collared near the line at Nace last time, would give him a good chance. At similar ground today.
Okay, we can pan back round to this side here and pick up number 2 who's coming towards us. That's Codaline for Clive Cox and Adam Kirby. Adam, of course, has already been in the winner's enclosure, and now he takes the mount on this horse. He's
settled down since he first came into the paddock some 10 minutes ago. He was quite edgy, but he's more relaxed now, and was a scopy 2-year-old. Slightly disappointing when stepped up to listed company at the back end, but still that sort of form good enough to give him a chance tonight.
Next we have Solomon's Bay, number 5, who's a flashy looking chestnut with 4 white socks and some splashes underneath him as well for good measure.
Yeah, he ran in a very hot handicap at Newbury first time out, form of which worked out very well. He suggested he was a bit better than that in that run, and did improve on it, I think, at Newmarket over 7 next time, staying on to be 3rd, 4th, just behind Seven Heavens, who takes him on again. And I think he ought to improve a little bit again. He might just be a bit overpriced.
He's followed by number 1, and that is Mr. Scaramanga for Simon Dow. And this was just getting a little warm and on his toes.
Went out to Doha to win there, a Group 2 in Doha in the winter. Has come back in reasonable form. He ran okay for some way in the Greenham, but this is probably a step down in class for him. Very much on his toes.
OK, we have one more horse left to get, and that horse is being saddled at the moment. Let's have a Challenge Annika moment, which is one for our older viewers. Hugo Palmer is currently saddling this horse, who was really relaxed when walking around the paddock earlier. Second start, and we should be able to get a good look at the finishing touches being put on. He's just checking that the girth isn't too tight. And here we are, number 3, Coropic, which we can have a good look at as he exits from the saddling boxes.
5th in the Middle Park late last season. The draw was against him last time in a Newbury listed race on his initial outing of the season, which is probably needed.
Just having a final bit of water before he comes out, and hopefully we'll be able to see him in his splendour before we have to head back. Hugo Palmer just putting the finishing touches. Where's the pace coming from in this race?
Well, there's lots of pace. Sutter County made all last week. True Valour's been making the running in Ireland, and the 2 drawn on the wide outside, Codaline and Seven Heavens have also taken turns in the lead. So lots of pace. It might just set up for a horse like Solomon's Bay, who'll be more patiently ridden, or indeed Coropic, who's held up in his starts. But I think there'll be a lot of adrenaline around the Dettori veins, and that might just transfer themselves to Seven Heavens, who's got a perfectly good form chance in any case, and we wonder if Frankie might just engage another winner.
Yes, absolutely. We're all familiar with that edge that Frankie Dettori gets when he rides a big race winner. Could it apply to Seven Heavens?
Runners, one or two of them leaving the paddock. That's Sutter Country leading. We're still looking at True Valour walking around. This is the Investec Savings Surrey Stakes. Olivier Pellier will not be riding Mr. Scaramanga. That's Pat Smullen. Sutter County is 9-4. True Valour 11-4. 3-1 Seven Heavens. Solomon's Bay 8-1. 14-1 Codaline. 16 Mr. Scaramanga, and Coropic is 25-1.
Yeah, I won't tell you what I've been described as in this standard issue poncho from supplied by Epsom, but it did the job while the Oaks were on, and it's I don't know whether too many people lost too much money on rhododendron, but it's a fairly subdued betting ring out here on the lawns in the members enclosure. But Sutter County, Mark Johnson's already had a winner today. Easy to back, 7-4 out to 9-4. I don't think it's going to go any bigger, but the two horses backed against him, True Valour down at the bottom and Seven Heaven of John Gosling, same colours as just won the Oaks, so maybe that's the reason. But it's really quite a quiet betting heat, this, with Sutter Country about to be joined for favouritism with True Valour. So, yeah, the quietest race of the day by far here.
So, you're fully up to speed from Dave, minus the poncho, and all coatless in the lovely balmy heat here at Epsom. We stand Eddie Fremantle, who gave Enable a big shout, Chris Dixon, and I, as we look at Frankie Dettori in the Juddmonk silks again for John Gosden, and as he conceded briefly at the end of that snatched interview with him a few moments ago, this is a whole different challenge altogether, the challenge that is Seven Heavens.
Yeah, one or two of these Frankles are temperamentally difficult. And John Gosden's got 3 or 4 of them in his yard, and this horse always goes to post early these days. His form's solid enough to give him a very good chance here. That third last time, perfectly good, respectable effort. That was Sutter County going down. Codaline, who whipped round as Adam Kirby went to get on board and tried to get loose. He was very edgy when he first came in the paddock. Looked like he'd settled down. When the jockey went near him, off he went again. But Adam's got him fine going down.
And the final finishing time for the Investec Oaks, if you've just joined us, welcome to Racing UK's coverage of the Investec Derby Festival, we are led to believe the fastest time ever run for an Oaks here at Epsom. Obviously once or twice it's been sent elsewhere during wartime and so forth, but fastest ever time at Epsom for the Oaks today, which is a measure of the swinging pace that Donico O'Brien set throughout.
Yeah, good solid gallop, run on ground that horses are going to let themselves down on, and a horse that ran all the way to the line, steered the trip very well off what were very solid fractions, and it adds to the visual impression of a very impressive winner.
Yes, a measure not only of the stern early and middle pace, but also the fact that there were 2 fillies good enough to come forward from that and keep galloping.
Yeah, absolutely. Little bit helped by the wind, which was across them, so behind them as they came down the side of the course, and was never in their faces at any part of the track. So that might have contributed to it.
And of course, when you look back in 50, 60 years' time at the grainy footage of Epsom in 2017, and people say, how can that be the fastest Oaks ever? It's absolutely lashing down.
Yes, and mud flying, and a filly who I think is going to go on improving. Just the 4th run of her career, and she's stamped her authority on what we thought beforehand was a decent field, and we still think that are a thing.
So runners continuing to canter down to post then for our 6th race this afternoon. It's due off at 5:15, this Investec Savings Surrey Stakes, and we'll try and put a little bit of shape to this. We've talked about Seven Heavens. Sutter County is the horse that appears to be, I hate using this adjective, but I'm going to use it, the solid horse in the race.
Well, very consistent, so I can see why you use that to describe him. He did, in ratings terms, it would seem, take his form to another level last time out at Goodwood, and that piece of form does give him a very solid chance. But Eddie mentioned to me, and he may as well explain more, but he didn't look quite so well today as he had done prior to Goodwood, and that worries me a little bit, because I think to warrant being the price that he is, he needs to back up Goodwood.
I think he did look very well at Goodwood. He looks fine today, but he doesn't quite got that same sparkle. And he had a relatively hard race. It was the best performance of his career, ratings-wise, and I think a lot of that was the 7th furlong helped him. He has run over 7 furlongs before, but this was turf and ran a right-handed bend. I think that helped him as well. Going back left-handed is not totally ideal for him. He's been left-handed many times. Once or twice he hasn't handled the bend at Lingfield. That would be a small concern. He's by far the most experienced in the field, and he's beginning to get looking reasonable value at 9 to 4.
So, that is Sutter County. We've talked about Seven Heavens. Let's have a look at True Valour from Ireland. Johnny Murtagh, a man who won the Derby on High Chaparral, on Sindar, on Motivator. He's now a trainer and he trains this horse. Ryan Moore has been booked to ride. I just wondered whether the easier track would suit better than Nace last time.
Yeah, I think that there's every chance that that's the case, given the way that he shaped last time out. And there still might just be a little bit of improvement in him. I don't really know how strong the form at Limerick is. They were fairly well bunched up a couple of starts ago, but it just strikes me as a horse that might yet improve a little bit. From stall 1, Ryan Moore won't get too far back, I wouldn't have thought. He should get a nice enough trip into the race, and I can see him taking a reasonable enough jump forward himself today.
11 to 4, True Valour. Now, Eddie, you put a positive word forward for Solomon's Bay a little earlier in the programme. Sylvester de Sousa takes the ride for Roger Varian. What is it you like about this horse?
I just thought he ran his best race last time, and it was a messy race at Newmarket in some way. There was a small field and they split into 2 groups, and he wasn't positioned well early, but he did make some good late headway, you know, to hunt up Seven Heavens and Larchmont Lad, who ran very well in one of the Guineas trials, and then ran in the Guineas itself earlier this season.
Well, just under half of this
race, but I think his temperament has got the better of him, and he's not been able to show the full extent of his talent to this point. Now, this is a track that could suit him, but the draw out wide in 7 could just be a problem for me, and he might just not settle, and he might throw his chance away. But if he
Solomon's to come with a late run and improve again.
Way for this Investec Savings Surrey Stakes. Seven Heavens wasn't that quickly into stride on the outside as they start off down the hill, and the lead taken by Codaline and Adam Kirby in the blue jacket. Seven Heavens freewheeling into second now. True Valour's on the inside of Sutter County in the Silver Silks, and then Coropic. Further back is Solomon's Bay second last, and lastly just to the outside is Mr. Scaramanga as they hurtle down the hill towards Tattenham Corner, and it's Codaline by a length to Seven Heavens. On the inside then True Valour, followed by Coropic. Sutter County the favourite, racing between runners, and then behind them is Mr. Scaramanga out wide of Solomon's Bay. So homeward bound, Codaline almost level now with Seven Heavens, who draws alongside under Frankie Dettori, followed by Coropic under a drive. Sutter County's in trouble here, under pressure. Then True Valour down the outside, Mr. Scaramanga. Seven Heavens now gets to the lead as they pass the 2 furlong marker. Seven Heavens out wide. Solomon's Bay with the big white blaze now looks the big danger to the leader. Solomon's Bay comes dashing down the outside here in the hands of Sylvester de Sousa to join Seven Heavens, who's now struggling to pick up, and from last place to first, Solomon's Bay begins to draw away from Seven Heavens and wins the Investec Savings Surrey Stakes. Solomon's Bay from Seven Heavens, third True Valour, Mr. Scaramanga, Coropic, Codaline, and the disappointing Sutter County.
Well touted by my guest Eddie Fremantle beforehand. Solomon's Bay has won this race, the Surrey Stakes, with a sustained run down the outside under Sylvester de Sousa.
When you see where Codaline's dropped back to 6th of the 7 runners. The horse isn't helping his jockey because his temperament is on top of him.
You also issued a negative about Sutter County beforehand. He has run badly, but it looked to me as though he didn't really handle the downhill.
Yeah, which he'd handled Goodwood fine last time, but as Eddie said, he's going around a right-handed bend there, and at Lingfield he's looked awkward in the past, and maybe left-handed downhill just doesn't suit him, but for whatever reason he's run a bad race today, and is the disappointment of the race.
Solomon's Bay, under a sublime ride from Sylvester de Sousa, overhauls Seven Heavens to win the Surrey Stakes, and now, from Surrey, we head to Lincolnshire with Jonathan Neeson.
We do, although I'm not actually in Lincolnshire, Nick. Solomon's Bay, Sylvester de Sousa, 8-1. Seven Heavens, 5-2. All 7 ran. I'm sure I heard some cheering from somewhere near our microphone on the course. Time was 1:21.97. Despite the rain, the times are good.